Hi, I'm Jan Broberg, your host and fellow survivor. Welcome to Trauma Interrupted. On this show, we name the wounds that trauma and abuse leave behind. We do the work it takes to heal, and together, we find the way forward. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get to work. Welcome, everybody. So she was 13 years old, riding in a car through Detroit neighborhoods that she used to pass on her way to school. Being dropped off at houses in the suburbs, houses with family photos on the walls, and not one adult who was supposed to protect her did. My guest today is Kat. She's a survivor, a mother of 4, a former doula, and someone who is speaking publicly about her story for the very first time in this kind of detail. Kat grew up in a home marked by absence, a mom who was always working, a dad who showed up maybe once a year with a pair of shoes and a beer. She was looking for warmth, for someone to see her, and the people who found her first were definitely not safe. What Kat shares in this episode is raw and real, and it's about backyard trafficking, about the men who bought her and faced no consequences, about what it means to freeze when everybody thinks you're supposed to fight back, and about why the girls nobody worries about are the exact girls we should all be paying attention to. This conversation changed something deep in me. I think it will do the same for you. Welcome to Trauma Interrupted. For more information, visit janbrobergfoundation.org. Okay, let's get to work. I'm so very grateful that we have in our studio today, Catherine. Sometimes she goes by Kat, beautiful young person that actually is using her voice in many ways for the first time to tell the details of her story. Thank you so much, Catherine, for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm always thrilled when we get somebody that is young like you are talking about what happened to you, because so often we don't have that courage until much later, especially if the perpetrator was someone that was known to our family. You know, we're worried about what our family or their family or relatives might think, all of those kinds of things. And I'm just so thrilled that you are as young as you are, and you are talking about something that is so difficult, but so many people need to hear about it. Now, you said you're an open book, so I want to just light a candle, Catherine, before you tell your story. My scent here today is optimism. And the reason I'm optimistic is because when I see someone young like you telling a story like this, I'm optimistic that we are making a difference, that things are starting to change. And in that change is when we're going to be able to see more prevention. And what you have to say is really important. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your honesty. And I'm going to get this third 3-wick candle lit. There we go. And this one's for you. You give me hope.
Thanks.
You give me optimism and hope that there is a future, that we can change this terrible, almost pathological, what it feels like, just mushrooming out of control, the abuse in so many different ways of our young people. And please start wherever you feel the most comfortable and just take us back to the beginning of what you feel is your story.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for saying that I'm young. I appreciate that.
You look
I don't
young.
always feel that way. Yeah. So, I grew up in a single parent household for the most part. My mom had boyfriends, and I had a couple stepfathers by marriage. Those ended, but basically what I traced back to kind of like the shift was
Mhm.
my mom sending me to live with my aunt and uncle when I think I was in kindergarten or first grade, but I can't remember exactly. My timeline is very, very fuzzy. Like years, ages, I'm very fuzzy on, so please excuse me if I'm off base. But she sent me to live with my aunt and uncle because my aunt and uncle were married and had a nuclear family, and my cousin was only a year older than me, and they thought I would be better off basically there. So
Okay.
that was kind of like my first sense of rejection from my mom. Not that it was meant that way, but that's how it felt at that age. Like, why am I leaving? I don't need two parents. like wasn't that big of a deal.
Well, and you're connected. You're connected to your mother. It's just human. That's just the birth process. Once we come from that womb, and we're connected in so many ways. And I think that would be very traumatic, actually. I can understand that you already
Yeah.
now are experiencing your first real significant trauma, being separated from your biological mom.
Yeah. So I went to live with them, and then eventually ended up going back to my mom's. I don't remember what age I was when that happened. And then again, when I was around, like, I think I was 11, she sent me again back to my aunt and uncle's house. So things were going really well during that period for me. Like they had like horses, and we were showing horses. We lived out in a rural area, so we just played outside all the time and had adventures. And then my cousin got pregnant at 15,
Oh,
and my aunt and uncle basically said, "You have to go back to your mom's because we need your bedroom for the babies."
okay.
So they sent me back to my mom's, which was a big it was just a big change for me because I went from having all of these people around me all the time to going back to a house where my mom never was because she was always working. So
Mm,
I was alone majority of the time. Like Jerry Springer and Maury Povich raised me pretty
yeah.
much. So when I came home from school, I would watch that and eat ramen noodles and whatever I could make myself. And I think I was just a very, I don't want to say needy child, but I craved affection and
Mm,
attention and like warmth from my mom, and she was not that type of parent.
mhm. That's tough. I mean, that's really hard because when you're surrounded by people and especially horses, I find them to be incredibly one of those things that we don't utilize enough, but equine therapy and so many even the rhythm of a horse, even being around a horse. There's something so soothing about that and having adventures outside and all of that and then going to an inside situation where again, you just don't have your mom there and not warm fuzzy, but not mom at all and you're alone.
Yeah. And my dad obviously was not present. He would kind of come and go. He would come like maybe once or twice a year. He would pull up, pick me up, take me to the mall to get a pair of shoes. He'd be like drinking his natural ice while driving his conversion van. But he
Hmm.
would like always bring my half brothers with me who lived with him full time. So I always sort of felt like this weird like I don't belong, and like my brothers had this resentment towards me because my dad would buy me shoes or whatever, but he wouldn't buy them things, and it was just this weird dynamic. So
Mhm.
again, it was sort of like empty time was spent there. And then eventually I just got to the point where I don't even remember how it started, but I just started kind of venturing out of my neighborhood, like more and more, and hanging out with people that kind of like hung out in River Rouge and Ecorse, which are cities in Michigan on the border of Detroit. And then
Okay.
eventually making my way from those areas into Detroit proper and like the West Side specifically, which is not really a great place for a preteen, young teenager to go by herself on a
Mhm.
bus. So
Yeah, that's a little
I don't know what I
scary.
was thinking. I have no idea.
Well, listen, you were thinking like a teenager who has kind of no reason to stay put. You were thinking like a teenager. The point is about assault and what happens is that we are not equipped at 15 to deal with the world. We think like people think at 15, and
Yeah.
that's not when your brain is fully developed and hopefully you've been able to develop normally over the years at 25 or 26. Now all of a sudden I don't think that even the legal age should be 18 or 21. I honestly think it should be when your brain is fully developed. Maybe you get some opportunities, but I'm telling you there is so much that happens in the early 20s to people as well that I'm like it's just our automatic responses is to at that age go someplace else where there might be more to look at, more something to do, maybe somebody that will care, That's what you were doing.
Yeah, I definitely was attention seeking, and specifically from male figures. Like I lost my virginity super young. I was like 11 years old, and I just was always like talking to and hanging out with older guys, Like that was just what happened. I don't know why. I felt rejected by people my own age. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what started that, catapulted me into that zone. But again, it was like me running away from home and staying away from home made me feel like my mom cared because she would be like looking for me, or when I did
Mhm.
come home she would be like I was so worried, and that was like the only sort of feeling of, well, she's thinking of me that really existed. So it was a negative attention, but at least it was some sort of acknowledgement of my existence.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it doesn't matter. Attention is attention, whether it's negative or positive or actually harmful in some ways. But if that's what the emotional body is screaming for at 15, you will go in search of it. And the
Yeah.
point is that it can happen even if you had stayed home. Even if you had stayed in that environment, you still were going to be seeking for attention. You needed the father figure. We all need it. Even if we are raised by single mothers who are wonderful, there's something in us that seeks for male approval and
Yeah.
attention. And, you know, so finding it in a safe way, in a good way, through maybe good friends or, even a church group or some kind of a social activity in the community where you can have some of that need fulfilled is something that, I think that single parents, need to know that the missing dynamic can sometimes lead us to really needing things that, as hard as we try, because I was a single mom, in raising my son, at the end of the day, there were things he needed that he could only get from his father or a father figure.
Oh yeah, I know that all too well. I have two sons too, and their dad is not present. And as much as I try still, or have
Mhm.
tried to connect with them in that way, there's that one piece that just we don't connect on. It's
Mhm.
never going to be there, so it sucks.
It's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that we wanted something better, I guess, maybe for our kids. Isn't that kind of every good parent's dream? Except parents that actually harm their children and traffic them and exploit them, which happens a lot by fathers and some mothers. And you think, okay, well, maybe not them, but for me, becoming a mother, I knew that I wanted my son to have what I had with my own parents. That he had safety and that he was loved and that he was adored and he could, be anything, do anything. But I realized that my trauma also had an effect on my son, and being just a single parent for the most part, it had an effect that was very hard for him.
Oh
Still dealing
yeah.
with it in his 30s. So yeah.
Yes. It's definitely interesting how that played out. But also my experience definitely led me to the situation with their dad and what ended up happening there. So it's very interesting how
Yeah.
everything has connected. I am running from home again. I just started hanging out with men who were older, and then my mom would find me, she'd bring me home, and I kept doing that. And then my mom eventually was like, she picked me up and she took me to Meyer to go grocery shopping. We are sitting in the little dining area, and she was like, Catherine, if you want to go, I'm just tired of doing this. Like, let's just go home. You can get your stuff and go, and I won't look for you anymore.
Whoa.
And it was obviously a private conversation. She was getting a lot of heat from the family, my grandfather, my uncle. They fell out over it, haven't spoken since. Like, because of the way she was handling it, she was kind of just like annoyed more so, and like stopped making things hard for me. Everybody judged her for that. So that was rough.
As you were saying, Kat, all of it is connected. There's a connected tissue between what's happened to us and how the rest of our life kind of unfolds. So bring us up to speed on that connectedness between, you know, the first, I don't know if it was the first boyfriend or the first love, and where you're at today and how that connects.
Well, the boy's dad so basically when my mom found me the final time when I was trafficked, which I should probably start there, but
Mm.
when she found me, she brought me home, and essentially I didn't run away anymore because I didn't want that to happen again, and I was afraid of the guy who trafficked me. So I went to like an adult education school. I made friends with someone. I ended up meeting the boy's dad while we were out riding around in the car. And he was 24 and I was 16. And
Ugh.
we got into a relationship. My mom used to like let him stay the night at my house. And obviously, I got pregnant because that's gonna happen when you're sharing the bed with someone. And yeah, I ended up getting married to him when I was like 6 months pregnant, I think. So before my 17th birthday. And then shortly after my 17th birthday, we ended up moving out but I had my son right before I turned 17.
Okay. So you're really
So
young with an older man, because that's a big gap from 16 to 24. 8 years may not
mhm.
seem bad if you're 42 and he's 50. You know what I mean? But at that
Yeah,
age,
the maturity level,
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. If you were to tell your one of all your children, you have 4 children, if you were to tell them, how would you, I mean, you would never react this way to your own 16-year-old. I can already
Mm-mm.
tell. There's no way. What would you
No.
tell them when they think they're in love with somebody, 8 years older than them, or even a few years older than them, even a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, even that is
Never gonna happen. No, I would literally move my children to like Oklahoma in the middle of a field if I had to deter that behavior. That would
wow.
not happen. No. But also I don't worry about that because my children are not the way I was, like so advanced fully by the time I was like 12. And my daughter's 13. She's a kid. She doesn't even think about boys. It's not similar at all. So I have curbed that cycle, hopefully.
So do you ever wonder, if you don't remember, um, if something might have happened to you at a younger age to have awakened, not even awakened feelings? Because when you're pre-puberty, you don't necessarily have those, except maybe a little crush on the boy next door that, that you might go out and play night games with or something. I don't know. I just don't. In my mind, I think I don't feel like I had any kind of feelings at that age. At that 10, 9, 10, 11, when Birchtold moved in. And of course, I didn't hit puberty till I was 17 and almost graduating from high school. I finally started my period. So, it didn't really hit me. I had more feelings as I got into my 15, 16, 17-year-old years. Like, I thought I was attracted. I wanted to kiss a boy, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have feelings when I was that young. Would you ever wonder if something could have happened?
I mean, I do. That's part of it that's a little hard for me because I don't know. I don't know. I haven't done enough therapy to like go back to that time because there was a stepdad, there were men my mom dated, like there were men around, like
Mhm.
uncles, etc. And, stuff came out about one of them later through a family member. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But I know I was extremely hyper as a young child. I remember being in like second or third grade, knowing what that felt like to be aroused, I guess, at that age, but I was super
yeah.
young, like very young. And I don't feel like that was super normal, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I know there was curiosity when I was in first and second grade. Like, you're talking about, we're talking about 6, 7 years old, right? 5, 6, 7 years old. I
Yeah.
remember in first grade, there was a boy that lived 2 blocks away from us. His name was Darren. And he was my first kind of, like, kids at school talked about having a boyfriend. And I remember thinking, Darren's my boyfriend. Of course, I have no idea what that
Hmm.
even means at all. I just remember there was enough curiosity at one point with another friend of his that one time we were all down in the basement at his house, and the other friend was like, everybody pull down your pants when we turn off the lights. And then and we did. I mean, we're in first or second grade. And then he would turn on the lights and we'd all look at each other, and then he'd turn off the lights. And it was like this game, and we were curious.
Yeah.
It feels like that was normal. That feels like normal kind of kid behavior that, you want to know. And nobody's talking, at least not back in 19. What would that be? 60? 9, 60,
It's
70.
like you show me mine and I'll show you yours.
Yeah.
That's like normal kid stuff. But even way before I was that at that level,
Yeah.
I remember I mean, I don't even want to say masturbating because it's
That's
weird,
okay.
but because I was a kid.
Yeah,
But
that's fine.
I've never spoken about it because it's taboo, I guess, because I was so young. And then also, if I spoke about that, I felt that would like be immediately attributed to me being trafficked and like me having sex at a young age and me being like a fast teenager,
Yeah.
as people would say, and me like attracting men on purpose, like a Lolita situation, which is not what happened. So I
No,
just don't ever talk about that stuff because it's like then people are just going to think I'm, asking for it.
but you're not. You can't. And that's the point that
Yeah.
I think is so important about this interview. It's like our conversation is talking about things that are taboo, that people never talk about, that they never even consider. And they think, oh, well, that girl's just fast. She's easy. She's this, she's that, you know, and the actual reality is none of that
Yeah.
gives any license or excuse for what happened to you. And we are just learning about how our bodies develop, and we're learning more and more about the science behind our brain, our nervous system, and our body connection, where maybe something might have happened to you in a very early young, that could have been contributing to that, arousal, feelings when you were little. But at the same time, that does not mean that you were asking for it. I love this
Yeah.
conversation. I'm so glad that you were able to tell me those things, because I think most people never think about it. But I definitely know I had a friend of mine who was more interested in those kind of feelings when much younger than I was, and so
Yeah.
it's interesting. And I just always was kind of like, I don't understand, because I literally didn't understand. But now looking back, I can go, okay, there were things that are just normal, I think, childhood development things. And then other things that I'm like, maybe something
That's a
happened.
red flag.
Yep. Yeah.
Looking at it now, yeah, I that's difficult for me too because I didn't start really thinking about my trauma until I was like after I had my fourth baby. I had my third baby I had in the hospital, and it was the first birth I had with no medication. So, no pain meds or anything, and she came really
Wow.
fast. And I don't think that I was prepared for the triggers that were going to occur when I was giving birth to her. And like the nurses were like putting their hands inside me to like hold her in and like doing all these things to my body without me asking. And also like me feeling the sensation of my uterus literally expelling her. And I had no control. Like she just was coming out. And I was freaking out. I literally thought I was dying. And
Yeah.
everyone's just like, oh, it's fine. It's normal. And they were being very dismissive. And I'm like, but you don't understand. This is not a normal, like, I'm just freaking out and being dramatic. It's like I'm extremely triggered because I don't have control over what's going on with my vagina, which is essentially,
Yeah.
it's a trigger in and of itself. So it's like,
So true, isn't it? I mean, literally, I've been talking to a friend of mine who's been here visiting, and we were just talking about, like, what is the fascination of this vagina thing that is like it doesn't matter if you're a young boy, a young man, a tween, a teen, a young adult, or you're 50 or 60. It's like, what is the deal? What is the constant deal about it? It's just so interesting, because I feel like as I'm older and growing up and stuff like that, I mean, not that I'm not or wasn't interested, in and in feel, all the things that are good about it, but it was just not like top of mind. Like 10 times a day, people say they think about it. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm busy. I got dishes to do, and I got, places to go, and
yes.
songs to sing, and, I got plays to be in. And it's just so interesting why it was set up that way somehow. I'm like,
I
why?
don't get it.
I don't get it either. So
Yeah.
weird, but interesting for people to really consider about what goes on in birth. I think that's a conversation in and of itself. Like, maybe asking consent should be part of your birthing
Well,
plan and
well,
training.
it should, but in my opinion, I became a doula after that actually because I really wanted to advocate for women that had trauma. It was a big deal. Or women
Yeah.
who, like, I didn't know when you were giving birth that you could tell the doctor, no, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't want to be monitored the whole time. I want to stand up or whatever. I had no idea you had a choice because it's not advertised to you. So
Right.
women that are more like meek or mild mannered, I wanted to be able to go in there and be like, my client wants this, and say it with like, conviction
Mhm.
instead of being walked all over. So that was huge for me. That was a great chapter of my life doing
You were
that.
an actual midwife, basically.
No, I was a
Wha
doula. I did
A
not deliver
doula. Oh,
babies.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. Got it. But you were there as the representative, basically, of the woman to make sure that they did it the way that she wanted it done.
Yeah, and advocating for
Great.
partners because a lot of times men don't really know what to do in those situations. A lot of men do now, but they're afraid, they don't want to like agitate, or they're scared maybe, and just being the person that's like, "Hey, why don't you put your hand here on her back and this will help her feel better in this way."
Yeah.
Bringing people closer together too was
Yeah.
important to me.
And I'm assuming that probably didn't happen in that first birth at 16, right before
No,
you were 17.
no, that was like full medical intervention textbook. Like, my sister's in town, we're gonna induce you. Like, let's do this. So they did Pitocin, they did epidural. Like, it was literal textbook medical birth, I would say,
Yeah.
in a controlled environment. We want to do it between this time and this time because I want to be home for dinner. Like those vibes.
Wow,
So,
very
yeah,
interesting.
very, very different. Yes.
Well, and hopefully that means that things have progressed a little bit, but man, aren't there still so many women that you can think of that really go into that blind, and especially if they're young, especially if it was, you know,
Yeah.
unexpected or it was and I just think there isn't enough education for the public at large in order for the public at large to support that young girl at
We have
12.
a very, very long way to go in that area. Yeah, I don't even think in my lifetime or my kid's lifetime it will be like a standard act of care. It
Yeah,
just doesn't feel like there's enough moves being made.
right.
And I hate to be a pessimist. I literally walked into the coffee shop this morning and this old guy's always outside.
Yeah.
And he's like, why do you always look so sad?" And I'm like, because I'm perpetually sad. Really genuinely am. And I don't want to
Right.
be, but every situation I look at, I never look at glass half full. I'm always like, what can go wrong? Or if something's good, I'm like, when is it going to end? So I can prepare for that instead of
Mhm.
being blindsided. I don't want to be blindsided. So I'd rather just see everything as negative and failing and not be disappointed
And be
and
pleasantly
have,
surprised if it's
yes, and then
okay.
just be like, oh my God, it worked out for me. Like, what? It's depressing, but like, that's just the way it is.
Well, it's interesting because I can tell that even in that pessimism, you still, because I lit a candle for optimism. That's the smile
I
coming
know,
out of
I
there.
thought that was
Let me tell
hilarious
you what, let me
actually that you
let me tell you what it has. Orange blossom, which oranges are for sure supposed to be like you rub your hand on an orange peel or whatever and smell it. It's supposed to immediately lift your mood. Sandalwood, which is lovely and deep and rooted. And then scented. Yeah, those are the two, orange blossom and sandalwood. So it's so funny that that's the candle that I picked because I have all different kinds and they all have a different something for you, because I find the fact that you can say that and laugh about it, that even though you might look at things like, I don't want to get my hopes up, I don't want to be disappointed, I'm going to just stay in my pessimistic place, you still have a way of finding that bit of, I don't even know if it's called optimism, but it's called
It's
that.
it's just sarcastic humor, honestly. I'm very sarcastic. I'm very dry, and people do not get it. So I just don't do well in social situations. I'm gonna tie that back to why I am the way I am. I, again, was running away all the time and hanging out with people that were much older in Detroit. was in a Coney Island off of Grand River. I used to go in there and I would be like, oh, hey, can I get some food? And then I'd lay them back later. It was kind of like a credit situation because I always went in there. And the girl Veronica I was staying with would play sometimes, and I believe she was actually an escort, but I don't know. She never told me, but she would go away for hours, come back, have money, and be like, "Oh, I'll get you food. Do you want something?"
Wow.
So this guy walks in, he's really calm and cool and chill, and he asked me if my name was Kat, and I said yes, and he said that he had some friends tell him that I was in the neighborhood and I might need help. And, he's like, can I get you something to eat? And I said, yes. And then basically sold me on the idea of you can stay with me. I'll buy you clothes. I'll take care of you. And because I really didn't want to go home. I don't know why. I just was like, I'm not going home this time. I'm really going to make my mom miss me kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went with him. And it was very just like dumb and naive. So I go with him. We go to this house. Later, I learned it's in a neighborhood called Brightmoor. And
Okay.
there were a bunch of girls like similar in age to me, and they were all like white or, I mean, this was a primarily Black neighborhood. So
Mm-hmm.
like I stuck out like a sore thumb, and the girls that were in the house all looked like me, similar to me, and
Mm-hmm.
they all had the same sort of like angsty I hate the world attitude like me. I picked
Yeah.
up on that right away. So essentially, it's just, but they didn't, yeah, but there was no like, there was no warning from them. There was no sort of like, oh my God, by the way, like this is what's going on. I didn't have any idea. I was just like, oh, this is cool. It's like sleepover sorority situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And he's taking
and
care of
they
a bunch of girls, not just me. He's going to take care of us. Sort
Yeah,
of that
basically.
idea.
He would take me to get clothes. I got some clothes, and then like eventually the clothes that he would take me to get were kind of weird, like plaid skirt with a white tie up top. These
Schoolgirl.
sorts of yeah, like so more revealing stuff, and I was into it because I was like, whatever. I got my tongue pierced, took me to get my tongue pierced, like just doing things that a teenager would be really excited about.
Yeah.
And then later was like, well, you have to pay me back for all of this stuff. And essentially, this is how you're going to do it. And it made it seem like it was, you're going to go with this other girl and you guys are going to go to calls together. And, she'll kind of teach you the ropes situation. And she's like my age. So it was just like, just weird. Like there was another woman that was there she was older. She was his baby's mom and her name was Treasure. And they had their like 3-year-old son with them and their son was always around. He was always with us. So he eventually started taking me to hotels. We would all of us would share one room and then we'd have a room connected or one right next door where if somebody called and wanted to spend time with one of us, they would be in that room. So like James was always within earshot or close by if we
Mm.
were with a client. Um, so there were times when I'd be in the hotel room. I specifically remember one guy coming in and the only thing I could do was jobs because I couldn't do jobs because I had my tongue pierced. So that was a dumb mistake for me because I didn't know that by doing that, because I didn't know I was going to be in the situation
Yeah.
that the easy job, which is oral, was off limits for me, and I would have
Mm.
to essentially be the person that has the people because I couldn't have give oral sex.
Because of
So
your tongue piercing. And this is all at
yes.
age 15. All of this is happening at
No,
age
this was
15,
actually
16.
13, 14.
Well, 13,
Yeah.
14. So this is even
Yeah.
before you went kind of home for the last time.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
and
Yes,
your
this is the
mom
event.
knows nothing about these
She
things.
didn't know. No, I was with him like for a period of time. So
Okay.
I wasn't with him and then going back home and then with him. I was with him just for one long period. Yeah. And then my mom was looking for me. So she was like hitting up. I remember I was at a hotel and I went to a payphone. James had left. I
Mm.
went to a payphone because they still had them. And I called this guy I dated. I think I was 13 and he was like 32 or something. It was a really huge, inappropriate gap. His name was Travis. I called him and I was telling him what was going on. And somehow he had my either my number of my like Nokia phone that I had or my mom's number, and he called my mom and told her what was going on, but he didn't know where I was because I didn't tell him.
Ugh.
So she kind of knew, and she started looking for me a little bit more intensely. And I'll get to that part, but she did eventually locate me, like randomly on a street as I was getting out of a car. It was like serendipitous. It was
Wow.
crazy. But yeah, so anyway, hotel calls, and then we would get calls to go to suburbs. So I remember specifically like this car, this guy would always take us in this like Bronco. He had dreadlocks. I don't remember his name, but he would be our driver, aka security. He
Mhm.
would take us to like private homes out in these like really nice areas like Farmington Hills and like Brownstown, like places right by where my mom lived. So I'd like pass my high school, or I'd pass places that I would go to as a kid and be like, what am I doing? And then I'd go in this house where this like pictures of the family members are there. His wife is clearly gone. And would have sex with him in his bedroom, and then he would send me on my way. And it was just like the realization at that age that these men who clearly have families and remind me of my own uncle or a family member. Nobody is who they say they are. And that is like the scariest realization as a young girl, because even now, like I don't believe people. I am very skeptical. You literally have to prove to me that you are being honest or what you're saying is the truth. I just am I will nitpick every single thing someone says internally. I'm not going to be rude. I'm just always like, yeah, okay. I don't believe you.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and I'm part of the team at the Jan Broberg Foundation, and I want to tell you about something we built called the Survivor Circle. So, the Survivor Circle is a free online community for anyone who has been through trauma or abuse. And it's somewhere you can actually exhale with no pressure, no judgment. It's just people who get it. When you join, you'll meet our community mascot, Dottie and Spotty, and you'll get a warm welcome, a walkthrough of our guidelines, and find your shared ground for sharing. We host circle meetings regularly, round robin and speaker style, and you can share whenever you feel ready. There's also the TIME program, which stands for Trauma, Interrupted, Mitigated, and Expressed. So it's a peer-led 12-phase recovery framework, plus workshops, guests, and of course, first looks at everything coming from the podcast and JBF. So this program was built because too many survivors are out there carrying something heavy with nowhere safe to put it down. And I know that feeling personally because I am a survivor. I may not be ready to share my full story yet, but honestly, that's exactly why the Survivor Circle matters so much to me. Because I don't have to have the words yet. I just have to show up. If any of this sounds like you, please come. Not when you're ready, not when you have the words. Now. Because you've carried this long enough and you don't have to carry it alone anymore. Please join us free at circle.janbrobergfoundation.org or just tap the link in the show notes. I really hope to see you there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, here's this 13, 14-year-old who is wanting the attention of, a father, of men, whatever, or at least organization. The point is that you used all the right terms, and so many of them, it makes me so angry. Like when you say the word client, I'm like, oh, this is our client. No, this is the next rapist that's going to take advantage of a situation of a 13-year-old on a 13-year-old. You're going to somebody's home in beautiful suburbia, and you are placed in the thing where you're like looking at the picture on the wall going, I wish that were my family. It's so sickening to me. It's like, I mean, I get it that we have to have some kind of a word, but I'm just more and more angry about the fact that we think, which I know this is part of what you want to talk about too, like we talk about workers, like, well, they chose that profession. Most of the time I just want to cry, the boy that cries wolf. I want to cry bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
That's touchy too, because even as recently as like 2021, no, 2023, I got on OnlyFans. I was a single mom and I have never struggled this much in my life. Like
Yeah.
rent in California is crazy. Everything is like I literally am always on the brink. I feel like I'm always on the brink of losing everything.
Yeah.
So the comfort financially and the worry is so consuming that my brain immediately was like, well, I know if I do this, men will buy it because that's what men do,
Hmm.
and I will be okay, and I will make enough money to provide for my family. And I did for a time. And then I met my now partner who, I just, when I'm in love and I'm in a relationship, I'm extremely monogamous to the point of like to my own detriment.
Yeah.
Like I am so committed and loyal to everyone in my life. So
Mhm.
it was a no-go for me. I couldn't do it. But
Yeah.
um I but I know why I did that. So I know why I felt comfortable doing that. And it's weird because I'm so far removed from that experience.
Hmm.
But as soon as I was in a crunch, I was like, and I don't want to compare the two because they're not the same. I was not of consenting age at that time. I am now. No one was forcing me. Nobody got a cut of my money. It's not the same, but it is in a way. So
Because it feels like you were set up in so many ways to be like, this is my option. This is the only thing that I'm good at. This is the only thing that I'm wanted for, that I'm worthy of, that whatever the words are you want to fill in the blank.
yeah.
That got set up a long time before you were like, and I can understand that. I mean, I have never said this before live on any of my shows, but I really think that my getting married and divorced, those several times that I have been married and divorced, except for maybe the first time, because I think I really was in love and I wanted a family and I was doing it for the right reasons. Although I was not at a point where I had talked about my really, I
Hmm.
mean, a little bit, but hardly. I hadn't processed. I didn't have a therapist. I wasn't healed, whatever, all those things. But I think my continually then getting remarried, a lot of it was just because, like you, how will I take care of myself? How will I take care of my little boy? I was so panicked all the time. And I know that now, being single and being on my own and being able to make money and do certain things, I just was set up to never believe I was either worthy of it. And sometimes I still struggle with that. Am I even worthy of being successful? And I don't even know that I think of it like that, but I'm always defaulting to, well, if I got married, at least, that's what I can do. I'm good at being that. And not that there's anything wrong with being a married person, but it was like that was my only kind of option. It did almost cause me to go way faster into a relationship than I should have, and I don't should on myself
Same.
very often, but yeah, to be a
Yeah.
certain way.
I mean, I'm on my fourth marriage, so,
Yeah, I've
and
had
I'm
4 of those
38.
too.
So
Wow, you sound like me. That was about the time I got married into my 4th marriage. I was about that
yeah.
age. Yeah, and
Yes.
I
So
am divorced. Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't know. I don't think mine isn't really motivated by finances, ironically. It's weird because I always pick men who I feel sorry for in some capacity. But it's not like my current partner, it's not, I mean, I feel sorry for him because of the situation that he's in, but he's a strong like leader, and I've never been with someone like that. I typically am with men that I can walk all over or that I don't respect.
Mhm.
Eventually, I don't respect them. I
Yeah.
do in the beginning, but then over time, either they're not a good provider, they're not there for me emotionally, they don't do sweet things for me. So then I just like lose any sort of interest and the respect's gone and then the relationship's over,
Mm.
basically. Aside from my first husband, that because
Yeah.
I was 16 and he was 24. So
Yeah.
I was married to him for 8 years. He cheated on me all the time, was abusive. And then I remember waking up one day and I was like, why am I with this guy? Like, I don't even know like who he is. Like he stayed the same, but I grew into a woman. And then I was
Mm.
like, I'm not even like into him anymore. Why am I doing this? And then everybody in my family was like, well, he's a good provider. Why would you leave him? Midwest thinking is very much like, if he makes good money and he provides, like, why are you gonna like, don't stir the pot? And I am not
Yeah.
that type of person. So I was just like, later, I want out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I wanted the stability for my son, and what I ended up creating was a lot of instability because I too
Hmm.
wanted it to be real, like a real relationship, but I don't even think I knew how to do that at that time. I think I was still operating from more of the, 14-year-old mindset of
Mm,
having a crush and I'm attracted to him and this would be more stable and let's hurry and just get married kind of a thing.
yeah. I think it also goes to, if you get married, they're not going to leave me as
Right.
easily. They're not going to abandon me as quickly because there's like paperwork, like
Yeah. I
in
mean,
a
getting
sick
right down to
way.
the truth. Well, this is what I wanted. I wanted an honest conversation with you
Yeah.
about the realities of how to maneuver, life after and during the middle of it. And when you're that young and I mean, like you said, you can call them clients, but you were being trafficked.
Yeah.
100%.
That was the terminology he used. So it
Yeah.
was very much like, I don't know, when I refer to other girls, like I have a pretty heavy stance on people someone I've interviewed with in the past. He's very well known for interviewing people who have gone through trauma, like soft white underbelly specifically. But
Yeah.
he does his language is not trauma informed, and that really, really bothers me. And it
Yeah.
bothers me when you're interviewing girls that are not 18 and you're calling them prostitutes and you're saying they're working on Figueroa and they're
Mm-mm.
wearing outfits that are revealing their nipples or whatever, and they are not 18. Even if they are 18, not cool. But like
No.
legally, they're not 18. Legally, they are not of consenting age. So do not call them a prostitute. Do
Right.
not tell men where they work because you're
Right.
putting them at risk. You have millions of people who view your videos. That is a problem for me. So
Yeah.
it's weird that when it comes to like trauma informed language, when it comes to other people, I'm very, very like intense about. But when it comes to me, it does not apply as much. Like I'm more loose
Yeah.
with it.
No, I just think it's an interesting thing for people to think about. Why have we changed the language so much in a way that doesn't support the victims, that doesn't support the survivor? It almost
Yeah.
supports the trafficker or the man, the president, I don't know, whoever it is that's out there doing whatever they want to young girls. And yet we call it their fault or they wanted it. Somehow not being of consenting age, but dressing that way and being, out there, looking a certain way. We don't
It's
see
almost like there
beyond it.
always has to be like a question. Like
Yeah.
and it really, like what I've learned on social media, for instance, is it usually comes from women, which I also
Mm,
find extremely interesting. Like
yeah.
I feel like I attract like weirdos when it comes to
Yeah.
men. I just like wherever I go, like there's always some weird interaction.
Hmm.
I was at a car wash once with my son, and I'm sitting in the lobby waiting for my car to get washed, and I see this guy repeatedly rubbing his penis over
Hmm.
his sweatpants in the lobby. Like he's one of those dudes that's like on the subway masturbating while staring at someone,
Hmm.
and but it was above the pants. And I remember being completely frozen, and I am not one to like be passive or like afraid, but in that situation I could not move. This went on for like 10 minutes. And my son's sitting across from me, and as soon as the guy leaves, I'm like, I need to see the security footage right now because I know they have cameras everywhere. So I go in the room and I'm like watching it, and there's men standing behind me, and they're like, oh, he's probably just like scratching his balls or whatever. And I'm like, he is not doing that. You don't do that for 10 minutes in a repeated motion while you're staring directly at me, like didn't break eye contact. So I call the police. The police come to my house, or the cop comes to my house, and he was extremely dismissive. He was
Hmm.
like, "Look, this is Long Beach. Like, we have a lot going on. Like, this, did you feel threatened? And I was like, you don't understand how far this just set me back in my healing journey.
Yeah.
You don't get it. And I feel like the only reason he took me seriously is because I had a pug at the time. And he also had a pug. And we like connected about the dog. And that made him more apt to help me and go and look at the footage. And he calls me after he looks at it and he's like, you know, you were right. He was absolutely doing that. And I'm going to write a full report and we're going to give it to the prosecutor.
Mm.
And that is the first time somebody has believed me. But even in that case, I had to go beyond to prove, or not even like prove, but like just
Yeah.
like form this stupid connection over a dog to get him to want to do work to
Right.
help.
To go
Like,
look at the video. And how many people don't have a video? And why are they not believed and taken seriously? What, until they finally are assaulted or killed
it's
or?
because I wasn't assaulted. But then I'm like
Right.
thinking that it's broad day, 11 a.m. and you're in a public area. There's cameras, there's cashiers, there's people walking in and out. He's doing it still. This is a red flag. Like,
Yes.
clearly he has no qualms about being public about it. And my son was right there. So that is a problem for our community. Like, he's a danger to the community. You know, eventually I picked him up out of a lineup and I don't know what ended up happening, but they actually went through with it. But that is the only time. And my trafficker has also been prosecuted. He's eligible for parole in like 2028, I believe. But none of his charges were minor related. None of them were related to like assault, because he did assault me. He also physically assaulted me, like punched me in the face, like cold punched me when I was not expecting it. So that's hard. He also has a right a prisoner profile where he says that he got in trouble for like helping young girls. Like, he's lying essentially on this profile. And the Department of Corrections in Michigan apparently just does not check those things, and he's probably victimizing other women as we speak. So
And see, this is where I want to, like, pull my hair out and scream bloody murder and get on top of a roof and just be like with a huge megaphone and be like, when, in what universe someone watching you and masturbating over their clothes for 10 minutes, getting on you as a woman, the way you look, whatever it is how is that not assault? Because they never touched you, but they definitely assaulted you. And like you said, it put you back in your, way back on your path of healing. I mean, you're still frozen. That's what we do. Our body responds by, that's the trauma response, to freeze. Even when
yeah,
you're you at an older age and stage of life and having, you've gone through.
I still struggle. I think as much as I want to be a badass and like be like, I'm gonna hit him with a baseball bat if he tries to come after me, like, I would freeze. I think I would be so scared. I don't think I would be able to move. And my
No.
point was me posting that video on my social media at the time and calling this guy out, and 90% of the comments were from women, and they were all sympathizing with him and saying it was probably misinterpreted and he was probably just itching himself. And like, Instagram had like a limit of like a minute or something, and I'm like, sorry I couldn't post the full 10-minute video, but like, why are you doubting me? Why do I have to
Right.
explain? Why would I post this and say he did this? For what reason? What am I gaining from that? Like,
Nothing. Not one thing. She's going to get more followers. Well, this isn't the way that, I would choose to do it. That's for sure. It's so interesting how women don't support women. And I see it a lot too. I do. And I'm like, is it because they're harboring some secret that they don't want to talk about or be found out about? Or is it because they literally have had such a perfect life that they don't see it, that they just literally think and turn a blind eye to what is obviously true? I mean, I believe people because I've been through it, and I can see where so many that it feels to me like women are harder on other women than sometimes the men. And we need the men to believe us for sure if we're going to ever change anything in the legal system or in in looking at these things to be assault. We have to have men support those ideas and all of that. We need them, but why don't women? What is that?
I don't know. I think it's just a society thing. I don't feel like we're really like raised to be like kumbaya with each other. It's more of like competition all the time and like
Yeah.
who's prettier, who does better at their job, who's a better mom. Like it's just like this constant feeling of competition. Maybe that's what breeds it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it makes me upset. And I think it's sad. And I hope for all the women that are listening that your first response would be to believe the person, to believe them first, just like we do with every other crime that is reported. We believe that somebody stole your television set. We believe that somebody ran into your car. We believe, that somebody stole some money out of your bank account because, oh, look at all the money that
Yeah.
we spend but we don't believe something like this, which is just everywhere. And I'm like, start with believing. And then if you want to go back and go through, well, let's see if there's proof. Let's look at the 10-minute video. Let's da, 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 da. Okay, that's how lawyers work. That's how the legal system is supposed to work. But you are
Supposed to,
always
yes.
presumed guilty when you are the one whenever you are the one that is telling, unless you happen to get a cop that has a pug like you do and then maybe takes the time to go and do the work. Okay, maybe there's an exception, or there's a few trauma informed, detectives and some police departments that are looking more at being trauma informed so that they can understand.
What I wouldn't give to go to a even Long Beach, what I wouldn't give to be able to go to police stations specifically and like talk to people that work there and like educate them and maybe develop a sense of empathy because that is a really rough, like the police I interacted with when I was being trafficked, when my mom took me to the police station by the house I was found in, they were very dismissive. They were like, you don't want to mess with him. He'll cause all kinds of problems. Like they didn't do anything. I remember a police officer taking me out back and like smoking a cigarette with me. And then we ended up just leaving and no charges were pressed. There was no further investigation whatsoever.
And you're what, 13, 14, 15 years old, and they just won't believe or do anything. What do you think that sets up a person? How do you think that sets up the next 5, 10, 15, 50 years of your life?
I mean,
It,
my whole life, I would say
yeah.
it hasn't. I just don't. What's the point in reporting things or putting your faith in the justice system at all, or anyone that's supposed to protect you, really?
Yeah.
Even like jobs, like bosses, authority figures in any sense. I just don't. You have
Well,
to have
because
your own back.
that's right. The power dynamic is real. Who's in
Yeah.
power is absolutely, we know who that is. And you just don't have a chance. I've been watching the morning show again. And I guess there's a new season coming out, and I'm just so fascinated by the way and they did a good job with it, by how they, you know, deconstruct the power dynamic and how not everybody in that same office or in that same building is going to be, pressured or assaulted or sexually advanced towards. So the ones that don't have that done to them, they don't believe it, because it didn't happen to them. My thing is, why don't we believe people? Why do we think women would say these things maybe once in, I don't know, 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times? There's something to gain by doing that. I just don't. I want everybody. I have a friend that's a retired detective, but he's a trauma informed expert, and he's taught every branch of the military so that they can know how to interview someone who comes forward and says, I'm being by my sergeant, or this happens, lies behavior that I don't know how to handle. Is this normal? It feels uncomfortable to me, and what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, and he's like, I have no idea how well my training is working.
Yeah.
He said, because it seems like there's such a long way to go. And he has a podcast also, Assault Survivor Stories. His name's Dave Markell. And we're just about ready to do, some conversations just between like him being an expert and another friend of mine who's a real news, she knows everything that's in the news, and talking about how does it happen, that Epstein and his girls, stayed and didn't they didn't know, but they also were too afraid to leave or to say anything. And what that brainwashing, what that is, and I know a lot about that. So we're about to have some conversations around that. And you've just really brought to mind some really important things for us to talk about in that episode that we're going to do.
The whole Epstein thing too is that's another thing I talk about a lot is backyard trafficking is not really talked about as much as your Epstein case or your, like bigger,
Right.
higher profile stuff because people want clickbait stuff. But
Yeah.
also, like, another huge element is why aren't the men who are buying the girls being prosecuted to the full extent of the law? I think back and I'm like, I would not have been sold to anyone if there weren't people to sell me to.
Right.
Like, my trafficker wouldn't have had a job if there
Supply and
weren't
demand.
people buying me. So,
Yeah.
where's these guys are out there probably grandparents now, like raising their families and living their life, traffickers in prison. And in some weird way, I'm like, my trafficker grew up in probably an underprivileged home. He probably didn't have a father. He was probably exposed to this lifestyle from a young age, just like his son was. And I can not empathize per se because he was an adult, but I can appreciate the circumstance that he grew up in and the circumstance and how that's different and may impact who he is as an adult male versus someone who's grown up in a privileged environment who's buying a girl for while his wife is on vacation. Like, it's a
Not
little
only buying
different.
a girl, but she's being dropped off at your home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so, and it's so common. And we need the backyard stories. That's why we talk. That's why I have you on my show, because
Yeah.
those are the ones that people just don't want to even believe happen.
No,
And
it's
they're
because it's like the girls are
everywhere.
runaways or they have single parents or they come from bad neighborhoods or whatever. So nobody cares. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, I definitely care. And even though I could be a big pessimist, I'm more optimistic that I'm going to make changes happen. And when I
Yes.
get to talk to people like you. And so in all of that, I understand, being so overly, leery and cautious and you have to prove yourself to me. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's probably a really good thing. I don't think I had enough of that in me. But I do now. And so as we have these conversations, is there anything else that's like really been left unsaid that you want to make sure we talk about? I know you had said something about how a pimp and a trafficker are the same thing.
Well, they are in most cases, I feel like. But it's also like, in what situation can you think where there is a pimp involved, even when women are of age, where it is a healthy, like there's like an HR department making sure that you're not mistreated? Like, it really doesn't exist.
Oh,
So I don't think that that's, I mean, it's illegal for a reason, right?
yeah.
And I think the women that are generally like partnered or partner with pimps are women who have been abused or have a history of instability in their life, what have you. So it's a group of people that should be protected, in my opinion, and not exploited. So I think that's just something that needs to be thought about on a deeper level. And again, it's just, I think the lack of optimism comes from the fact that there's so many things wrong. There's so many things going wrong right now in our society, and
Yeah.
this is at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're talking about it. I'm glad I'm here, and hopefully more people will like think twice about the girl in their neighborhood that is like the troubled teenager who gives her mom problems and is running away
Yeah.
because she's looking for something that she's not finding at home.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And I wish we would do that and give every girl or boy, that either has run away, is out on the street, whatever we think we know. Why don't we ask ourselves first the question, what happened? What happened to
Yeah.
them? Because something happened. People don't just all of a sudden decide to, leave home and go seek out, but it just isn't like that. So something happened that made you at this point be in that, what people like to judge they just don't know. They don't know the
Yeah.
difference. So
Yeah.
or they don't want to know. And I think it's more that as I get more and more people that are like, oh, I can't listen to your show. It's too, it's too hard. I'm like, well, then you might be part of the problem, is what I want to say. I don't, because sometimes they're my friends. But I do want people
Yes.
to understand. If they don't listen and they actually don't know, well, wow, maybe there's a problem, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah. I
there's
think
something that
also
they ought to
kids
think
need
about.
different things. Just like
Yes.
in schools, kids cannot learn all the same way. Like I needed more emotional attention and more affection. My sister didn't need it as much. Like,
Yeah.
so if these kids are missing those things and you're not really trying to figure out how to provide them, then they're going to seek those things elsewhere. And that's where the problem is. And I'm
Yeah.
not blaming the parents. It's not always the parents, but I just think there should be like an inventory taken of your own approach, see where you're going wrong maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because I do think that no matter what, as a parent, a single parent or otherwise, as a parent, if we want to raise healthier children who will be able to recognize or combat when things bad happen to them or they're opened up to the realities. I'm not saying you want, to walk around and have all your kids walk around being in total mortal fear all the time, but the basic things so that they know they can talk, they can tell, there's no secrets. Those things you set up around your dinner table without your phones. You set that up when you talk to your kids and you listen and you put your phone away and they put theirs away and you have moments of time where you can be honest and real and you can know the honest and real life story of theirs, and that you're not going to freak out. That scares kids. You freak out at a teenager telling you about something, they're never going to tell you about that thing again. And you might be going, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's a predator. Ah! You got to know how to do it. And then you have to be willing to take the time to actually put it away, because
Yeah.
these things are amazing distractions and they are also riddled with, how we get all this child to buyers. And the
Yes.
last one of my last interviews on this trauma informed show here was with a gentleman who informed me, and I hadn't looked up these statistics for a while, and he said there were 350 million pieces filmed last year in the United States of acts with or against a child, like from babies up to whatever, 350 million. You know what? Want to know how much money we spend on, I can't remember if it was the drug war and the border, $40 billion a year we spend on that. Do you want to know how much we spend on kids and this exploitation and them being, and then people buying it? Again, why
Yep.
are the people buying not being
I mean,
prosecuted?
nothing. They're doing
Nothing.
nothing. I
$200
mean,
million,
that's
$200 million and 40 billion over here. It was so shocking to me because
I
I'd
mean,
never
even the 200 million though, I think about like the way my life has been impacted and how I literally cannot find any sort of like free
help.
therapy support or like help or like maybe a boost if I'm like having a hard time coping, like
Yeah.
just something. And there's absolutely nothing for me. So,
And that's the truth. And that's the sad, sad truth. I started a foundation, the Jan Broberg Foundation. And the one thing that is our third pillar that we're going to have to, continue to fight for is that justice piece. And in justice, I mean funding for those who have already gone through this so that they can get better and they can stop the cycle of it. Because even though I don't, my child's, if I don't have any help, when this is the reason that I'm depressed, discouraged, sick, I have whatever drug, however I'm self-medicating because I don't have any other kind of help. What are we doing? Why aren't we helping? I mean, you think about, we have veterans homes for people that have been to war that are struggling with their mental health and that have PTSD. Well, what about all the girls and women out there and boys that have been assaulted and repeatedly in a trafficking situation? That is complex PTSD,
but that
CPTSD.
that's
Where's
the
the home?
situation though. Like the news cameras are there when the kids are being rescued or whatever, but
Yeah,
like as
that's
soon as they're
not.
rescued, it's like, okay, what happens after though?
That's exactly right. There has to be funding for the rest of the rest of it. because people think, oh, we wrap that up in an hour on, Law and Order, SVU. Good. The bad guy's in jail. Well, the bad guys never go to jail. What we're talking about is the most common kind of abuse that happens, and it's happening in our own backyards, and nobody's the perpetrator or the trafficker, they're most of the time they're not going to jail. And certainly the people buying this aren't going to jail.
Oh, they're not going to jail. They're
And so
getting shamed, but that's it.
Yeah, oh, shamed if somebody finds out.
There is a guy in Long Beach, though, that I connected with recently. I'm going to link up with him, but he does like the whole like mock, like he pretends to be a teenager and
Yeah.
meets these guys. And like literally, there are like thousands he's caught in the last year. And they're so
Wow.
dumb and like they're really just like not trying to hide it. But I'm definitely going to take part in this, like 100%.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that's
Yes,
what
it
we
should
need. We
be.
need more of that. Since it's in our backyard, we need to just be able to somehow
It's very guerrilla
do things.
style, but
Yeah,
if you can't count on the police, then maybe the community can take care
yeah,
of each other.
yeah. Perhaps that's the way to go. So you have an Instagram handle. It's emotional support BAE,
Bay,
right?
yes.
So Bay. Okay.
Yes.
Tell me
Yes.
more about that emotional support. What do you hope that people will reach out to you? Who do you want to hear from?
I would love to talk more about this topic. I think that's the biggest thing. That is my dream. My dream is to do that and write a book. Obviously, I have imposter syndrome in some areas, so the book is really just not happening because I'm like, well, it's not perfect yet. It's not the perfect time. I don't know how to format it, so like I don't do it.
Yeah.
I just want to do something with my life that my kids can be proud of. And I want to break the cycle of struggle.
No.
So I think any opportunity to be able to speak about it and, be successful in ways other than financial would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I really love that. And I'm hoping that as my goals and dreams inside of the foundation grow, that we'll be able to find ways to get to, every university campus, small towns, and just start to get our voices out there. Because I believe that the reason we do this show is for people to become aware of how common and how destructive this kind of assault and exploitation is on the rest of our lives. It takes an impact. And until we get aware that it's happening everywhere under our noses and we wake up and we see, then maybe we can rally the people that actually do care. We can rally all the survivors. We can rally the, roughly 1 billion female survivors around the world that want to see things change but don't know what to do. Somehow I want to put all that into, like this huge movement so that people
That would be,
can
if you
start to
ever need
see
an
it.
extra speaker, you can hit me up.
Okay.
I'm available.
I totally will, because we need to be on panels I feel like we should go to every university campus, because isn't that the age where people, they want to have a cause, they want to be activists, they want to,
I feel like
they're
it's
not
the
afraid.
age to impact it's the age to impact future parents,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes, and
But
for them to heal, because it's
yeah,
already happened or is happening to them right now. So
yes.
if they can understand the healing process, if they can get on board with this kind of activism, maybe we have some optimistic hope, as my candle here represents, that there can be
I'll get
change.
there. Yes, I'm gonna buy
Okay.
myself an optimist candle, so thank you.
It's really quite lovely. It smells really good. And it was really lovely having you here today.
Yeah, it was
Thank
great
you.
talking to you too.
You're amazing. And I just really hope that we can. Literally, there will come a day where I'm like, okay, the Partridge Family style bus is going to this campus. Who's coming to be on the panel to rally the troops that are there in that campus that
Yeah,
have had this already happen to them? That maybe they haven't said it out loud, but maybe they're just on the verge, ready to start using their voices. This is our most powerful tool. This voice of ours. We
yeah,
we take back our power. We empower others. And you did that today by being so honest. Thank you so much for
yeah.
being.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Hey everyone, my name is Austin Tanner and I'm Jan's son and the executive producer of this podcast. On behalf of our whole team, we want to thank you for listening to our show today. These conversations are not always easy and we don't take it lightly that you stayed with us all the way through. Everything you heard today can be found in our show notes. You'll find links to our website, janbrobergfoundation.org, our newsletter, and how to join our free online community, the Survivor Circle. This is where the work continues between episodes, and we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for listening today and for being part of our survivor-led movement. Until next time, over and out on two.